You're listening to the Hella Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Hello Well with Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle Washington, and today we're talking about the D word. Yes, the D word. What is the D word? It's delegate. I know it's crazy, it's hard, it's something that we know we need to be doing, but we don't feel like we can trust people. We feel guilty when we feel like we have to delegate. And that's why I brought on my guest today. Her name is Latika Vines. She is the CEO and founder of Visionary Initiatives, and she is just a boss mom. And a boss mom who's on the mission to help other moms become the boss of their life and their career. She's been giving, career and work-life balance advice for over 15 years. And she's just a wealth of information. And we need this right now, especially with the holidays coming up. It's time to learn to delegate with ease and with grace. Welcome, Latika, to the Hello Well with Danielle podcast. How are you today?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me.
I am super excited to have you on this conversation because I feel like, especially as the holidays are coming upon us, this is the time where most women of color are overloaded and trying to figure out their lives and are afraid of the D word. The D word, delegation. Yes, I said it. Delegate. I know it's a dirty word out there for us super
Yes.
women that think we can do it all. But why? I just want you to just start the conversation. Why do we have such a hard time delegating?
I think that goes all the way back to what we've seen.
Yeah.
Our mothers, our grandmothers, what we've seen on TV. And, it's like you go to the grocery store and your mom has like 5 bags, and someone approaches her and says, "Hey, I see you're struggling. Can I help you?" "Oh, no, I got it. I'm good." But yet she's struggling and limping, going to the car. And then when she places her bags in the trunk, she's like, "Oh, that was heavy." You know, there's something in us that teaches us that we have to be this superwoman with a cape, and nobody needs to help us. My mother didn't ask for help. My grandmother didn't ask for help. So why should I ask for help? But I think it's just something that we're trained silently to do, not ask for help and not delegate certain tasks to the people around here who have the strengths to do the tasks that we may not have the strength to do.
Yeah, and I think you make up a great point that our mothers show, we look at the mothers, the Black mothers on TV, look at, Florida Evans, like, girl, she was doing everything. I mean, whether James was alive or not, she was the one who was doing absolutely everything. And then you look at your grandmothers and your mothers, and they were doing it too. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's not that they had a stronger, more wider expansion or expanded capacity level than we had. I feel that we are in an age where we're given the choice. Society allows us, it's more acceptable to say, hey, it's okay to delegate. It's okay to hire a nanny. It's okay to, get extra help. Whereas I feel like it kind of goes back to slavery and our ancestors, want to go all the way back to, slavery. They weren't given a choice. It was, you got to
Mm-hmm.
feed these kids, you have to work in the field or work in the house. And it's not, oh, I just need a me day. I just need some personal time. There was no personal
Yeah.
time. So there wasn't this,
Mm-hmm.
that they had this expanded capacity. I feel like that they just didn't have a choice. And we do have this choice,
Right.
but it still feels that, I don't know. It's like, I get it, but what do you say to people, women who are like, I just don't have the time to delegate? Because I know people say that. I'm just too busy to
Oh,
delegate.
yeah. I think it's like for those of us who have businesses, we say the same thing. You
Yeah.
know, I really need a virtual assistant. I really need a social media manager, but I don't have the time to sit down with him or her to give them what I need. So it's just easier for me to do it myself.
Yeah.
But what it's doing for us is causing us to be behind on the non-admin stuff, the work that, will be getting us revenue. And I think for, it goes the same way for us as women, that we don't have the time to explain to someone else the way we want things done. You know, it takes so much time to sit and teach your husband, your children, or anybody else. Okay, make sure you use this detergent. Make sure you use this dish liquid serve in a dishwasher. It takes so much time to do that. But if we take the time to do that in the long run, look how much time we will save ourselves. Look how, as my husband says, look how much airspace we would save ourselves, because we've already said, hey, I'm giving this task to you. I'm giving you full control to do this task, get it done. I'm not looking at how you're doing it. You just do it. But when we're constantly worried about how someone is doing it, when they're doing it, why they're doing it that way, we're wasting our own time when we could be doing something that we truly love, like having that me time.
Yeah. And it's true, but it's like one of those things was like, but I want it done a certain way if the was is not done
Yeah.
right. And it's like I think
Hmm.
the bigger struggle happens to be like, how do I let go of my way being the right way and it needing to be, oh my God, the other word, perfect.
Hmm. Yes. I love this saying. It's DNP. Done, not perfect. And that's
Ooh.
something that I had to, like, literally just tell myself, yes, my children, my 10 and my 8-year-old, do not clean the kitchen the way that have I would like the kitchen clean. But the kitchen is done, and they're being taught valuable lessons of loading the dishwasher, cleaning the counters, sweeping the floor. I may have to turn the vacuum on and have the vacuum go in the kitchen after them when they go to sleep, but it's done. it
Yeah.
it is done. And I think it's just so hard for us, because when it's our way, it's perfect, and we know it's perfect. And if someone came in the door after we finished cleaning, we don't have to worry about it. But after someone else, we're like, oh my God, what is this person going to say, if they walk in the door and my house is not spick and span. But I think we just have to understand that we cause more stress on ourselves by living up to this perfection um, lifestyle. And to be quite honest, we all are imperfect human beings. So we cannot expect perfection from imperfect human beings. So there is no perfection, but there is something called done, accomplished, achieved, checked off. We just have to understand that we just have to get things done. It's okay if it's not the way that we would like it. But again, there's not a right or wrong way of getting things done. It's just our preferred way of getting things done.
Yeah.
But there's no right or wrong way. We just have to get it done.
And I love that done, not perfect, because I think in the day of social media, we think everyone else is living perfect. Everyone else is living the Claire Huxtable life. Everyone is, Bo from Blackish or whatever, that they have it all figured out. And
Hmm.
we don't know what's behind that social media post. We don't know what's behind that reel, but in our eyes, we're like, oh my God, they have it perfect. So, especially when we look at influencers who tell us, oh, you have to do it this way I'm doing it. And my kids are
Hmm.
wonderful. My house is all in order. And I have such a lovely work life balance. You don't know what's behind that situation. Because a lot of people say a lot of things on social media and they're living a whole other way. And so, like, I feel like that comparison
Yes,
that we do is hurting us. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. I don't know why we as women compare ourselves to other women.
Yeah.
Like I just don't know why, but we do it so often. And for me, I always think about the woman who does have everything perfect. You look through her Instagram feed, you look through her stories, you look through her reels, and everyone has a smile on their face. Everyone's hair is done perfectly. There is, you never see a picture that's never perfect. But she could be abused.
Hmm.
She could be crying at night. Her husband could be cheating on her. She may not even be legally married. She may just be putting up a front just for the sake of pictures. Like, you never know what is behind, like you said, that picture. And it could be something completely different. So for me, I don't look at those pictures and say I want to live that way, because you never know what that woman went through, what she had to go through to get to where she is now. Because for many of us who've been married, you go through a lot of stuff in marriage. And one day, yeah, you will take a picture and everything will be glitter and gold. But the trials and the tribulation that you went through to get to that glitter and gold, no one ever saw. They
Yeah.
just saw the after part. But I always look at other women and just, yeah, she may be smiling today, but after she took that picture, she could be crying. You just never know. They could be homeless. Like, you just never ever know what could be happening with anybody. And so I think it's just important for us to realize that, again, none of us are perfect. None of us have, perfect situations. We're all imperfect. We live in an imperfect world, and everything is not what it seems. So we can't live up to an imperfect expectation,
And I
or
think that,
perfect expectation, I should say.
yeah, and I think that people have this feeling that I can strive to be perfect. And I think that within that striving to be perfect, then they're looking for something to motivate them to get to that level. And that's when they're looking at these people to comparing, like, okay, well, she seems like she has it better. And she's doing what I want to be doing. So let me kind of follow in her footsteps, and that's going to help me. And I think that's part of how we get into this comparing that I hate that we do. And like even me
Hmm.
myself as someone who tries not to compare, but then you're still, you it I don't not that I don't know how not to, but to some degree, yeah, sometimes I get caught up and I'm like, "Oh yeah, oh I like her stuff or I could be doing that. Like why am I not doing this?" And I'm comparing it and then I have to like what I call stop, drop and roll. I'm like, "Okay, stop the comparing, drop into yourself and like what is this bringing up, how is your inner child or whatever kind of working processing this, what is this
Right.
triggering, and then allowing myself to roll past the situation. But I'm not always able to do that, and then it kind of goes back to giving yourself grace, which is a practice. And I think delegation is a practice. I think also one of the reasons why people don't delegate often is because they don't trust. I don't know what your thoughts are on that one. They don't trust people.
I absolutely agree. It's funny. I was doing my devotion this morning and was talking about the difference between boundaries and walls. And that, some of us who've been hurt, we put up walls,
Hmm.
so we literally have this wall up that no one can do it like me. No one can come in, you know. But if we set the boundaries to say, hey, this is what I like, and I think if we're honest with ourselves and with others, we'll be able to see that delegation is so much easier than we think it is. It really
Yeah.
is. And when you can delegate, the freedom that you gain is amazing.
Yeah. And I love that because there is a huge difference between boundaries and walls that we don't think about. And I love the way you kind of describe that. I also know you have this amazing system that I want to talk about called, you've done this acronym called system. Can you explain what system means and why we need to create one?
Yes. So for me, system is save yourself stress, time, energy, and money. So again, it's going to be different for everybody because we all
Yeah.
have different needs and family situations. But honestly, what is going to save you stress? So that delegation is okay. Do I need to, have one of the neighbors picking up the kids for me? For me, I live in the suburbs of Maryland, but work in DC. And so
Okay.
trying to commute from that big city to a small town that's an hour and a half in traffic, I need my neighbors to help me. So what's going to save me stress is having my neighbors pick up my children from the bus stop so that
Okay.
I'm not stressed. Time. What's going to save me time? Instacart. Ordering food or groceries or other items off of Target's website and then going to their parking lot and having the person come and drop it in my trunk. Ordering groceries off of Amazon so that I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about them and they're being delivered to my house. When
So my
I did
question on
have
that.
babies, mm-hmm,
So this is just me because I've like I'm
mm-hmm,
hearing you say these things and I'm just like, that sounds so good, but like my first mind with ordering groceries, I'm like, well, what if they pick the wrong tomato? This doesn't look ripe, or what if I'm at Target and they pick the box that looks damaged, and like, do you ever worry
mm-hmm.
about that when you're doing that stuff, or is that the total Virgo in me?
Are you a Virgo?
Yes, I'm a Virgo. Are you a Virgo too?
Oh, I am.
Yay! September 11th, shout out. Yes, I love Virgos. Virgo love.
Yes. So, the beautiful thing is that anytime that you order something, like let's say Target, you order something, you can always put in a note. So,
Okay.
you can always say like, "Hey, I want the tomato that is bright red. I don't want a tomato that, or a tomato that has a stem on it." Like you can say those things in the note section of
Yeah.
what you're ordering. And and the one thing I love about Target, this is not a Target ad, but they will they will, let's say, perfect example, I ordered some soy milk. It was the wrong size. So before the 2 hours, because Target gives you 2 hours from the moment you order the food, order your groceries, it being processed and it being ready for you to pick up. So in that 2 hours, I was like, oh no, I ordered the wrong size of soy milk. So I canceled that part of the order, got the size that I really needed, and they put it together in my package. But they just, for me, I love Target. And I spend way too much money in Target. But the convenience and the fact that most of their stuff is fresh. It's just fresh.
Yeah.
And so I can trust that everything is okay. And it's a Target that I've gone to for years, so I know what they have in there. And so I'm fine with whatever, I'm getting from there. Now I have gotten groceries from Amazon
Hmm.
and I've had no issues. No issues from Amazon at all. Um I have not tried Instacart yet. But a few of my neighbors and my best friend, they've tried Instacart and absolutely love it. So most of the places that you order from, you can tell them exactly what you want, what color, what size, all of that stuff, and they'll make sure that your order is straight the way that you like it.
And I think that is a great way to save yourself time. I did use Instacart every now and then for my parents during the pandemic because I am a caregiver for
Mm,
them. But my dad had major issues with Instacart on all different fronts because he's one of those people where, no, I need someone I know and trust to pick that exact form of meat. And in his mind, even if Jesus did it himself, no, he didn't know exactly what I was looking for. So it's not going to be right. But for me, like I have used Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
like Whole Foods because I do shop at Whole Foods. I where you shop at
Mm-hmm.
Target, I shop at Whole Foods. Like my whole paycheck goes to Whole Foods, and I appreciate everything about Whole Foods. I love them, and that was not an ad,
Yes.
but at the same time, I have used it. But I am also someone who loves going to the grocery store. But it's one of those things where I have to choose: do it myself or and if I say I want to do it myself, I'm choosing not to save myself time. And people need to recognize that everything we do is a choice. Like, so if we choose to do it ourselves or we choose to delegate and get help, it's a choice that we're making. It's not like, oh, this happened to me. So I love that. So how does one go about saving more energy and time? Inside
Yes.
energy time, energy and
So
money is what I meant to say.
so the energy is exactly that. You are not going to the grocery store. For me, I have 4 kids. So you're talking about the energy of going to the grocery store, going to the mall, going somewhere, trying to take 4 kids anywhere, and then you got to worry about, okay, don't touch that. Don't pick that up off the floor. Don't put that in your mouth. Don't touch the screen. Keep your mask on. Didn't you hear me to stay behind you? The energy that goes behind trying to contain children, even if
Yeah.
it's just one child, while you're shopping, while you're doing anything. It is a lot. It is a lot. But if you are able to create the time literally to go on your phone, do Instacart, do whatever you want to do and shop, the energy now can be switched to, now I can spend more productive time with my children. I can
Yeah.
go to the pumpkin farm with my children. I can, teach them something at the bank. I can use my energy for something more productive because now I focused my time. I'm more productive with my time doing X, Y, and Z. So again, it's the delegation. Somebody's driving the groceries to my house. Somebody's driving the household goods to my house. So that time is already taken care of. And now my energy can be focused on something that's more productive for myself and my family. I can have that me day. I can have that mental health day. I can, go on a date with my husband while the kids are at school because I have all this going on. And I'm going to tell you, one of the things that I do often is my husband bought these Roomba vacuum cleaners.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have one, definitely get one. It is worth the investment. But I can't tell you the last time I vacuumed my first floor in my house because that
Wow.
Roomba vacuum, all I have to do is press a button and it vacuums. And I've had multiple children. And after having so many epidurals, your back doesn't do the things that it used to do. So trying to vacuum a first floor hurts. It
Yeah.
hurts so much. And so having this Roomba vacuum, I'm able just to press the button and it vacuums my whole entire floor in an hour. Whole entire floor in an hour. And even goes into the kitchen and cleans the kitchen floor. But I've saved my energy. I've saved my energy to do something else while the vacuum is cleaning. Um, and it just, I tell you, my back feels so much better not having to bend over and try to vacuum anything.
Yeah.
But that's just an example of, my energy could be going to something else that's more productive, something where I don't have to really think much about it could just be going somewhere else, even if it's just sleeping. My I can use my energy for something that really will benefit me,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have to worry about it.
So I
So
have
that
to
I absolutely
believe,
love.
yeah, and I can be wrong. Let me know if I'm wrong. That you didn't wake up, and twinkle your toes and like, I'm an amazing delegator. I can do this like from jump without any issues. There's no guilt. And if that was you, kudos to you. But if it wasn't you, how did you get past the guilt of even beginning to
Hmm.
delegate or feeling like that? Like, I'm not perfect. Like, how did you get past the guilt of trying to save yourself time, energy, and stress?
Absolutely. So after I had my fourth child, I was a little stressed because I was trying to do everything, everything with four kids, working in DC. It was a lot. I had two kids in daycare. It was crazy.
Hmm.
And by the time she was 7 months old, I was officially diagnosed with postpartum depression. So my doctor basically said, you need to chill out. So she wrote a note for my employer for me to take 2 weeks off. She suggested that I go to therapy,
Hmm.
and she told me I just needed to chill at home, like literally not do a thing. And that's what I did for 2 weeks.
And that didn't give you
And
anxiety?
in those 2 weeks, um, I don't know if it did.
Okay.
I don't remember. But I think I know for sure that I knew I needed the break.
Yeah.
I needed the break. So I took those 2 weeks, and after much reflection, I realized I needed to get my life in order because there's no way I can do everything. There's no way I can do everything and be the best version of myself to my four kids and my husband.
Yeah.
Something had to change. And so, in that moment, during that time period, I started to understand what balance meant. Everybody's definition of balance is different. But I realized that my balance meant I needed to create a system.
Hmm.
And so that is where the acronym system came from, is I had to work at it myself and had to understand that my husband does not clean the way that I prefer. My husband does not do the laundry the way that I really like. In fact, I don't want him touching my laundry at all. But I had to understand that I cannot do everything. I cannot do everything. And I will say that some of us use scripture to say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, which is true. But God did not intend for us to do everything. We
Yeah.
are not supposed to do everything. Just like Adam needed a helpmate, hence God created Eve, we also need a help. And so, whatever that meant, I needed help. So I really loved, like, how different shows back in the 80s and early 90s, how everyone had like Sunday dinners with the family, and it was just perfect. That's not my family. So I was like, man, I really wanted, like, it would be so great for us to eat with our in-laws, and we make these big, meals, but we have those meals for the rest of the week. Like, it would be really cool to do this. Ain't nobody doing that on this side. So I said, okay, let me come up with a way where on Sundays and Saturdays I can meal prep for the week. I can do my grocery shopping for the week on Sundays and Saturdays. I can make sure the kids' clothes are ready on Sundays for the week. So I started really implementing things and having a weekend setup where I was preparing for the week ahead. Um, had people come do things around the house. Had, really talked to my husband and was like, hey, I really need help. I really need you to do X, Y, and Z. Um, and having that hard, because it's hard, it's a hard conversation, but I had that hard conversation and said, hey, I'm struggling, I'm drowning, can you do this? And so having that conversation with him, then having those conversations with my close relatives and saying, hey, I need help. So my mom was able to make meals for me.
Hmm.
So Sunday, she was actually making meals, or she said, hey, why don't you come over and I'll cook for you and the kids? So I had to open my mouth, be vulnerable, and say to the world, literally, which was my circle, I need help. And so once I was able to do that, I received the help that I needed. And again, that's everything from neighbors picking up the kids. We had a daycare provider in our neighborhood, so that really saved me stress because I only had to go to one place to get the kids. But just having the people around me to help and do the little things, just do the little things, really just made my life so much better. But it
Yeah.
took me going through postpartum depression to understand that I can't do this by myself. I need help. Whatever that meant, I needed the help. And I also needed to understand that it's not just to say that you need help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength.
Hmm.
Because those who are strong realize that you need a whole village to become stronger. And so I had to understand I'm not a bad person. I'm not a weak person. I just need help. And in order for me to get better from this depression, I gotta have other people into my world. I gotta invite other people into my home on an intimate level so that they can help me. And so that was 4 years ago. My daughter is 4 now, so that was 4 years ago. But it really, really just made me put things in perspective and say, okay, Latika, you got to get your life together.
Yeah. And I think you said so many amazing gems in there from so many people use scriptures to justify why they have to do it alone. And I feel bad because you can't say the Bible is wrong, but again, you can find justification either which way in the Bible. And, unfortunately, a lot of us choose the scripture that puts us more in, I must do it all because I believe I'm a Christian. I'm a part, I believe in God and this is the way God told me to do it. So I must struggle to show that I'm a good Christian. Um, Also the fact that you were able to, delegation starts with recognizing that you need the help.
Yes.
And like,
Hmm.
and I hope and pray people don't have to get to the point where you did. But there's other ways to get to the point of recognizing you need delegation. But the other thing you said that I love was that you have to be vulnerable.
Yeah,
That
you do.
vulnerability is a huge part of delegating and being able to accept and allow and receive. We're so often so used to, especially as women of color, giving, giving, giving. Some of us are like, "Ooh, you want me to receive something?" And it doesn't feel right. It feels
Hmm.
like something's not wrong because we're not used to it. That's all it is. That we're just not
Hmm.
used to receiving. And there is this yin and yang between giving and receiving, but most of us are really off balance in that. And so, what other things do you recommend or tips you can give to people just to just start in this delegation process and how to kind of move past it, like, any guilt or any other feelings they may have?
Honestly, to stop in their tracks, literally, just stop and just ask themselves, how am I doing?
Yeah.
How am I doing? And if you cannot be honest with yourself, as Mike Todd says, hot, honest, open, and transparent, if you can't be that way with yourself, you need help.
Yeah.
You really need to, you know, just and honestly, the only reason why I went to the doctor and was diagnosed with postpartum depression is because I was sick. I was sick. And I thought it was just a cold, but I had been sick for 2 weeks. And my husband was like, "You need to go to the doctor." And I was like, "You don't know what you're talking about. Leave me alone." But if I hadn't gone to the doctor, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we are killing ourselves without even noticing what we are doing. And so we literally have to stop in our tracks and ask ourselves the question, how am I doing? You know, and those vulnerable questions, am I happy? Am I sad? Do I feel like I've lost a bit of me? Because that's another,
Hmm.
question that plays in us. Have I lost a bit of me? What is it that brings me joy? You know, is my job, satisfactory? Like there's so many things that we have to stop and evaluate, reflect, and ask ourselves, how am I doing? And if you're not okay, it's time to make some changes. It is time to make some changes. And that's something I had to do as well. Even before going into therapy, I literally had to ask myself, am I okay? Because the therapist is going to ask you, so what's going on?
Yeah.
you know so I had to ask myself that question. But also, for us as women, we have a lot of and I had to go through this myself. We have a lot of emotional wounds, and a lot of those emotional wounds have not been healed. We haven't
Hmm.
worked through, and a lot of times they carry on into adulthood, into marriage, into motherhood, and so forth. And part of us not delegating, not feeling that we can delegate, feeling guilty about things, are things that happened back 30 years ago that we still have not healed from. And so again, it's where are these feelings coming from? You
Yeah.
know, where was I at 5 years old, and why do I still feel like I'm trapped at 5? And a lot, and for me, I had to go back there too. I had to go back there and realize when I was 10 and my parents split, I had to become second mother. So all I knew was my mother worked 2 jobs. I was taking care of the kids. So that's all I knew. I didn't realize, oh, this is not normal. This is not what 10-year-olds do.
Yeah.
But I had those emotional wounds that I hadn't healed from yet that were affecting me and my affecting my decision of not being able to delegate. Because my mother didn't delegate. She was working 2 jobs, but she had me in the house. But I realized I don't want my oldest daughter to take care of her sisters. That's not her job. She didn't have these kids. But those are things that stirred up in me that I hadn't healed from, that I had to go back and talk it out and be vulnerable and transparent with myself to get over. Um, but, for me, it was doing that, going to therapy, reading books. One of my favorite books was The Mom Empowerment Guide by Suzanne Brown,
Hmm.
which is really a work life balance book for working moms. Um, I also decided to really just work on me. And when I started working on me, that's when I realized, okay, yeah, I can delegate stuff. I can do this. And just the freedom I gained from delegating and allowing my husband, allowing my kids to do things for themselves, I realized I'm actually teaching them something, you know. And by me keeping it inside and doing everything, I'm not teaching them anything. So when my girls are wives and mothers, what are they going to do? How are they going to survive? What are they going to teach their daughters? Because I didn't teach them anything. So it was a lot of things I had to sit back and um, really look at, be vulnerable with, but definitely therapy. Having a mentor, I also had a mentor at the time. Um, but those are things that really helped me to be okay.
Yeah, I love that. How can people reach you? Like, how can people connect with you and continue to work on their work life balance, their career, and like all the many different great things that you do as a boss mom?
So I am on Twitter at Latika_Vines, and I'm everywhere else, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn at Visionary Initiatives.
Love that. So after
Thank
every
you.
episode, I like to ask, or at the end, every guest, some quick fire questions, nothing crazy. So whatever first thing comes to mind, just answer what comes to mind. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the first question is, what does living hella well mean to you?
Whew. For me, honestly, that means that my soul is okay. My soul
Awesome.
is just is okay, and I know that everything else will be okay.
Aisle or window?
I would say aisle.
I was like, you're tall.
No, I'm not. I'm only
You
five
look
three and a
so
quarter.
tall. I love you.
Mm-mm,
I
no.
need to look taller. I need to figure out a way to look taller in life. I just don't look tall because I'm not tall. What is always in your travel bag?
Wow. For real, for real?
For real, for real.
Um, you know what? You will always find, man, a lot of stuff. I would probably say my lip balm.
Okay. Lip balm's good.
Yeah.
When was the first time you knew that you were Black or a person of color?
Oh, you know what? Um, very actually recently. Um, I was, I think I want to say 2013 or 2014, in between two of my children. Um, I was in a job, and they basically wanted all of the people of color to go to another location, and I couldn't understand it. I was like, what do you mean you want us to go work at another location? Like, I don't understand it. And come down to it, they thought that we all were insignificant. We played around too much, and we never got work done, which was the complete opposite, of
Of
us who had
course.
been in that organization for years. We did have fun, but we worked hard. We worked hard. We worked long hours. Um, and the previous organizational leader, she was part of the party, but that was the way that we operated. And
Yeah.
it was about maybe 150 of us, but that was the way we operated. We joke, and you know how Black people are. We joke around a lot,
Yes.
you know, but we get work done. And this new organization leader came in, said, "Nope, this is not the way we're doing it." And that's when I realized I'm Black.
Yeah.
I literally realized they do see color, because the people that I was around, they never saw color, and I never was in a situation where I had to look at myself as saying, "Oh, I'm different." I knew I
Yeah.
had different hair, I knew I had different features, but I never looked at myself as being different from anybody else. I mean, some of my closest friends are one of my closest friends is Filipino and and El Salvadorian. Like, I never saw myself as different, but in that particular position, in that organization, that's when I looked around and said, "Wow, I guess I am. I guess I am a
Yeah.
woman of color." And that was, and it's still hard for me, but that was hard for me to realize, especially since I had been working for this organization for so long and been just so excited to come over to this side, and I got a promotion, and I just was living life, and then to be shut down like that, it was like, wow.
Wow,
So
that's a
yeah, I would say
powerful
that was my
story.
first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my last question to you is, we talk about on this podcast, creating a wellness revolution for women of color to thrive and stop just getting by and survive and being in survival mode. What advice would you give to your younger self to thrive and be a part of this wellness revolution?
Whew. One of the things that I would have um, said was, Latika, understand who you are,
Yeah.
and hear your own voice. Um, I would have definitely said that to myself at the tender age of what I am now. I'm now hearing my voice, and I heard bits and pieces of it when I was 19, 20, 21. But I would definitely tell that Latika to stop, listen, because that would have definitely changed where I am today.
I love it. Latika, you have given such a great wealth of information. I love you. I honor you. I say a shade to everything that you do. Continue being amazing. Continue being a light in so many people. You are a gift. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Danielle.
You're welcome. All right, y'all. I will see y'all next week on another episode of the Hello Well with Danielle podcast. Ciao. Thanks for joining us this week on the Hello Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellowellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hello Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hello Well Danny on Twitter. And if you hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.